Hi, I am Jim Fitzgerald, a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt and Innovation Master. Today I want to show you how to apply the Toyota production system to a hospital and explain the benefits. Every hospital should look to increasing the velocity of patient flow and decreasing defects. This is how Lean Six Sigma optimizes a hospital. Hospitals will feel more competition going into the future, and this is how your hospital can get and keep ahead. Next is the discussion overview. First of all, look at your hospital as a system. Departmental performance is great, but patients feel system performance. Performance is measured against a system. Toyota throws out a red herring when they refer to their production system. It is really a business system. I will review some of Toyota's focuses that improve their business performance and demonstrate how that applies to benefiting hospitals. I attach an important Toyota production system capability to each of the processes I review, but other Toyota production system processes apply also. I can explain that when we deliver the solution to you. This is how I see your hospital. Whether or not you see your hospital as a system or set of departments, it is a system. Some of the inputs to the system are patients, doctors, and supplies. Some outputs are patients and waste products. Everything between the inputs and outputs is the system. The goal of a system is to flow. This means a smooth movement of patients through the hospital. Toyota recognized this and understood the scope of their business. Their business expands beyond the manufacturing line to suppliers, customers, R&D, sales, and marketing. Bringing efficiency to Toyota's businesses means optimizing the complete system, even parts that are not under their direct control. The Toyota production system performs defect control, focuses on constraints and addresses them, standardizes work, and creates and increases flow. Let's look at how the Toyota production system can streamline hospitals by first talking about goals and a vision. I cannot write your goal, so this is just a prototype. There is a funny thing about goals. Often when you proclaim one goal, other positive benefits accrue. For instance, if you accomplish treat more patients, it is entirely possible that your revenue increases along with patient satisfaction. Of course, a vision is intended to be a stretch. However, it can focus improvements towards a direction. Will patients flow seamlessly through the hospitals of the future? We will start with a primary emphasis of the Toyota production system, defect reduction. This is a short list of defects intended to give you an example and ideas of where to start. I want to tell you a story about something that Johns Hopkins discovered. They found that in 90% of cases that resulted in liability issues, yes, 90% of those cases had defects observed but not reported. These cases resulted in liability actions. This is where the patient safety program focuses. Andon is the requirement at Toyota that anyone who detects a defect stops the assembly line to investigate the source. Defects increase liability insurance costs and liability litigation costs. Liability is a negative for both patients and the hospital. The patient safety program addresses this issue, thereby significantly driving down liability costs, and in one case, 74%. It is important to start this quickly as benefits ramp up over time. Thank you, Toyota. Now on to the theory of constraints and the emergency department. A patient comes into the ED and waits. They either see the triage nurse and wait or leave. Then they wait for the doctor, radiology, phlebology. Then they wait on a gurney for hospital admission and then wait for a hospital bed. Waiting is a metric of inefficiency. It cannot be totally removed, but the removal of constraints can certainly make the system faster. A department view distinguishes the point admitted to hospital as between seen by doctor/nurse and taken to room. A system view from a patient's point of view does not see this intermediate step, admitted to hospital. Does a patient know or care about this? Let's look at some real cases of ED performance. This slide shows the difference between a hospital that has not utilized Lean Six Sigma and one that has. The information comes from the ProRepublica website. About 50% of hospital admittances come from the ED, and 100% of those patients feel terrible. I look at the emergency department as an entity that should seamlessly bring patients into the hospital. In the top example, 5% of those potential patients leave without ever being seen. Note that the top example hospital sees a patient on average within 15 minutes. That is a good metric. However, when it says seen by doctor, that could also mean triage nurse. For patients that are sent home, it takes 3 more hours. The hospital that has implemented Lean Six Sigma sees a doctor in 23 minutes, taking a little more time, but sends the patients home 40 minutes sooner. Something is going on here. The big difference comes when a patient is admitted to the hospital. The top hospital takes about 38 hours to accomplish this, whereas the Lean hospital takes about 10 hours. That's on average 28 hours less gurney time for each patient. Hospitals have reduced their ED waiting times significantly using Lean Six Sigma. It is also possible that ED is not causing the wait. It could be due to other parts of the system. How do hospitals speed up their emergency department performance? The next slide answers that question. In the preceding example, the top hospital is littered with significant constraints. The Lean Six Sigma hospital has focused on their constraints, addressed those constraints, and then continuously moves on to the next constraints. Through this continuous effort of focusing on becoming more efficient, this is the driver that has taken the Lean Six Sigma hospital to the excellence that it sees today. Let's take a high-level walk through the constraints removal process. You perform a value stream to identify the constraint. Now that you know where the constraint is, subordinate it and learn all about it. Elevate this constraint. It requires your full attention to fix it. Repeat the constraint removal process. You move on to the next constraint. Let us now discuss the advantages of standardizing work. Standard work is not only vital for improving processes, it is the basis of the Patient Safety Program, or PSP. By standardizing procedures and publishing best practices, this allows everybody to utilize the best practice for each procedure. The PSP addresses consistent application, whereas standard work addresses what is applied. Lean Six Sigma hospitals who have made this effort have eliminated HAIs, or hospital-acquired infections. A best practice gives you a starting point to initiate an improvement from. Everyone should know their procedure execution steps or have quick access to them. Have you ever seen the inside of a commercial airline cockpit? The only way you could manage 75 gauges is if you implemented visual control. Visual control lets you quickly glance at a complex system and determine if any component is out of its bounds. Visual control works on more than gauges. Toyota uses the concept of a shadow board to allow a worker to know instantly whether they have all the right tools for the job. It uses the human's ability to quickly ascertain a pattern. Visual control simplifies a complex situation. Visual control also decreases the chance of error and that is of prime importance in the medical field. One-by-one flow is a concept that the completion of one process should lead to the start of the next process. Ideally, a system would be so synchronized that when every process completes, it receives the next input. The goal of this effort is to increase the flow of nurses to patients, thereby increasing their satisfaction along with the patient's well-being. This effort involves repositioning the nurses' stations and focusing the nurses on patients. This should start with prototypes for adoption and improvement. Create flow in your hospital. Decrease patient gurney time. Hospitals that have become a patient-focused hospital have seen bed occupations grow, become profitable, seen surgery market share move from 20 to 30%. The value of bringing Lean Six Sigma into a hospital is tremendous. I am Jim Fitzgerald, a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt and Innovation Master. My job is to manage black belts, green belts, lean senseis, and industrial engineers on projects geared to moving hospitals into the future. I look forward to guiding your journey to a patient-focused lean hospital.